So it means that the investment and business climate in Uganda is more favorable than in Congo, at least from Congo to Uganda.
Kisirinya says that Congo still has some challenges that need to be addressed if we are to move forward.
How do we get our goods to the DRC? It is also an issue, but the fact that it has joined the EAC and the EAC has developed some common approaches to security.
Rabaz continues to say that, shocking enough, the currency of Uganda operates in a few kilometers in Congo, which is a disadvantage. Quite embarrassing.
Arua, you'll find that the Ugandan currency is active in Congo about 80 kilometers from Arua town.
If all goes well so far, the East African community will be comprised of 7 countries, and these include Uganda, Kenya, Tanzania, Rwanda, Burundi, South Sudan, and Congo, which will be the last to join.
And moving away from that, Uganda produces up to 120,000 tons of fish from aquaculture annually, including production from small-scale fish farmers, emerging commercial fish farmers, and stocked community water reservoirs and minor lakes. However, there is still a deficit of 1.13 metric tons, which must be covered by 2030, despite the challenges faced by the fish farmers. Experts have explained how aquaculture operators can resolve the deficit issue.
Uganda has a deficit of 1.13 metric tons, which must be covered by 2030, yet the lakes are strained because of poor and illegal fishing activities. Experts have explained how aquaculture operators can resolve the deficit issue. Godfrey Ofono, an aquaculture technologist, says from aquaculture alone, Uganda produces 120 metric tons of fish annually, yet there is still demand that can't be met because Uganda still doesn't have the capability.
You know, apparently, production of fish from aquaculture alone in Uganda annually is at 120,000 metric tons. And the target is raising 1 million metric tons per annum, that is by 2030. Apparently, we look at the capture fisheries, that is the main source of fish. Capture fisheries, these are fish that are caught from the lakes and rivers, the wild fish, the fish you don't feed, the fish you don't buy, but you just go to the lake with your net and then you harvest these fish. There is high competition for these fish because we have a very big market for fish, which we cannot satisfy. Since we cannot satisfy this market, and our main source of fish are fish from the wild, fish from the lakes and rivers, the best alternative is going into fish farming, which so far cannot still satisfy the market because we have a very high demand.
Due to high demand for fish, it's time for the business community to engage into fish farming. Godfrey urges Ugandans to have a changed mindset about fish farming.
About fish farming in Uganda, it may not only involve the support from the government, but even the private players themselves, which starts from the mindset of a prospective entrepreneur who would love to do fish farming. Then once you are into the activity, that's when we can look at other people who can support, including the government.
Despite the issue with demand, there are other several challenges that the sector faces, such as high taxes imposed on feeds that are imported.
Many fish farmers have a challenge of feeds. First of all, the cost of feeds are a bit high because many of the farmers who are doing commercial fish farming in Uganda rely on imported feeds. These imported feeds are taxed highly. Now, when they are taxed highly, at the end of the day, it is the end user, who is the farmer, who pays this tax. So if the government could be able to support these farmers in terms of the taxes that are levied on the feeds, believe me, fish farming will be a bit cheap because, you know, when you are to make money, the cost of input should really be lower than the revenue that you'll be able to get. But when the cost of production is high, then the marginal profit will go down.
With a deficit of 1.13 metric tons, which must be covered by 2030, Godfrey elaborates on how the government can achieve this.
Forward, first of all, is being in position to support any mushrooming fish farmer so that they are able to meet their targets. Because at the end of the day, when a fish farmer starts carrying out the activity and he realizes that fish farming is a bit expensive, especially in terms of feeds, then they may end up giving up. But if at all we are able to support them in providing feeds with high nutritious value, but also with an affordable cost, at the end of the day, these fish farmers will be able to progress, and then we shall have fish farming expanding.
He further explains how aquaculture operators can benefit from their business.
Aquaculture refers to domestication or culturing of aquatic organisms, and we are looking at fish. Now, if we want to make aquaculture profitable as a business, any fish farmer has got to take records of whatever they are doing, so that you know that from the word go, if you are paying a consultant who is coming to support you, take records of the expenditures that you are paying this person, take records of the money that you are putting into setting up fish ponds, take records of the fish feeds, the cost of fingerlings, up to even including the cost of paying the workers. Then, at the end of the day, when you are selling your fish, get to know how much you've been able to get. Subtract what you've gotten from the expenditures, what are the expenditures from what you've got. Then get to see the revenue that you've got. If you do not take these records, at the end of the day, you'll be doing fish farming, but you're not able to balance your books.
Fish feeds are imported from countries like Brazil and Egypt. However, taxes imposed on these feeds increased to 6% from the 4% that was in place 3 years ago. Naomi Mtumba, Smart 24, Prime Edition.
Now, car theft in Uganda continues to fluctuate substantially in the recent years. The suspects use shortcuts along the porous borders to avoid detection, and the vehicles end up in garages. The Deputy Kampala Metropolitan Police spokesperson, Luke Owoyesigere, says this continues to be a big issue.
The Deputy Kampala Metropolitan Police spokesperson, Luke Owoyesigere, said in the recent years they have recovered about 15 vehicles. He amounts the reason for the rampant cases to the adamancy of owners not putting systems in their cars that can help police track these thieves, as well as carelessness, especially during public functions.
Made recoveries amounting to 15 vehicles around different parking yards and garages. So it is a big issue. We shall release the details in our annual crime report that is soon being launched this month.
Why do you have rampant cases in this?
Well, they range from the detail. The reasons may vary. I would say that thefts have always existed, and Uganda is not the only country that is having this kind of theft of motor vehicles, but people have adamantly refused to put some systems in their vehicles that can help us in the tracking of the motor vehicle in case it is lost, and also a bit of carelessness. Some person might leave their vehicle unattended to, trusting the community, especially during burials. People who make these programs of burials, they don't assign anyone to guard the vehicles, and vehicles are just parked anyhow. And at the end of the day, some people might become victims of the carelessness of the organizers of these kinds of activities.
When asked about what police has done to control this vice, he disclosed that the use of CCTV cameras helped recover vehicles, as did thousands of vehicles. It's your own responsibility to safeguard your vehicle.
With the help of those cameras, and these cars, most of them have been reported stolen, others traffic violations like road accidents have been recovered through that system of ANPR.
He added that it is a lucrative business, and these cars are usually recovered from parking lots, and some of these stolen cars even cross the border to neighboring countries like DRC, Sudan, and Kenya.
These people do night parking for a month. That's why I've recovered most of our vehicles, and the others are intercepted while en route to leave the country Uganda, because that's where they have the market, especially the side of DRC. But working with different police in different nations under the system of Interpol.
Rona Nahabwe, Smart 24 TV, Prime Edition.
And government is set to require more land for oil and gas project. However, compensation should be adequate and prompt in accordance to Article 26 of the Constitution of Uganda, which brings into conformity to facilitate expeditious compulsory acquisition of land to avoid delaying government infrastructure and investment projects.
Under the Land Acquisition Act, Article 26 of the Constitution of Uganda, government will compensate more people in the pipeline project of oil and gas, hence allowing them to live places in conformity. Talking to Dr. Sylvia Namubiru Mukasa, Chief Executive Director of Legal Aid Service Provider Network, revealed that there is need to support community that will affect, hence promoting business.
And we are saying, how can the small enterprises, how can the communities that are affected, we normally call them the project affected persons, how can they be supported to promote business, one, to benefit from the oil and gas, and to also be able to live a better life. What usually arises when there is a project like oil and gas, you just know that the government is going to acquire land, and that is land acquisition under Article 26 of the Constitution. And when the government acquires land, because before oil was discovered, there are people who are settled on Bulisa land, there are people who are settled in the areas like Mulu, those areas, the oil Albertine region. There are forests, etc. So the people who lived there were living a livelihood of farming. They had established homes, they had established what we call burial grounds and many, many things that affect them. So when there is a project like oil, which is going to benefit the whole country, no doubt the government under Article 26 is entitled to acquire land. However, when government acquires land, it has to be, those who are affected are compensated. And the compensation not only has to be adequate, but it has to be prompt. Those are the key. Dr.
Namubiru further advised government to have a mega plan that will favor communities and workers and compensation which will enable them to earn a living.
Many workers in a given place just know that children are going to be born, others will be neglected, there will be a lot of rapes and all that. So all that, the workers' compensation issues, accidents will happen. Issues of compensation, workman's compensation has to be put into consideration. The working hours, all that is put into consideration. Those are all rights. And the program should be able to cater for all that, to make it a human rights-based approach to acquisition of land that is going to benefit an entire region. You are supposed to put in amenities. Hospitals are no choice in such an area. You have to construct hospitals that are going to benefit the community that is working. Schools are the same thing. Religious worship centers have to be there. All that has to be planned in such a way that the community is going to be much more better than what it was found. The roads in that area have to be super. Hotels, tourists are going to come. So the plan is made.
She also advised vulnerable people and communities to look for private lawyers to guide them on land acquisition and fill the human rights approach.
Oftentimes, especially the vulnerable, the rights holders, the people in that region, if they don't have access to advice from the lawyers, from those that are going to advocate, from their leaders, they suffer. And often the compensation is not adequate, it is not prompt. The violations that I've spoken about, they are likely to suffer them. They will not have schools where they can go let alone. They will not have hospitals. You know, they don't have anyone to emancipate and ensure that they live a better life. So in such scenarios, what do? We are advising the community, those that can afford, to look out for private lawyers to advise them.
In addition, oil and gas sector will bring more opportunities to Uganda, hence developing our country through setting out jobs.
Uganda has a strong culture of entrepreneurship, including women, and it's one of the 7 countries worldwide that have achieved gender parity in terms of the number of women driven to pursue entrepreneurial activities. However, these women would compete favorably in the global market of government if government rather comes out to support them.
While talking to Smart24 TV, Nyabuhara Julian, the Executive Director of Uganda Women in Trade and Manufacturing, highlights some of the challenges women in manufacturing face and how they have affected the value of locally made products.
The challenge we face is resources. What am I meaning by resources? Finances, that's one way, and infrastructure resources, human resource, because most of the manufacturing we are doing it's self-taught. We do not have mentors. We do not have people who have done it before. We have an issue with competition. We are competing with big manufacturers. So most of our women are doing small manufacturing, cottage industries. They are doing kitchen factories. So we are saying, how do we grow into big manufacturers? So as we manufacture, we face that challenge of competition. You're processing and manufacturing soap, but you're competing with a big company that manufactures tons and tons of soap every day. So those are the biggest challenges. Then exposure. We do not have enough information. We are not exposed enough. We do not have mentors who we look up to, women who have done this before. So we are new in the market. Those are the challenges that we face. Even markets. We do not have enough markets. We do not know information where we should sell our products, who we should sell to, how do we go through the process. Then we also have challenges like certifications, what processes we go through to get our products certified. That's a huge challenge for women.
And government should skill women, and by doing so, there will be value addition to the goods manufactured in the country.
Ensure that they support these manufacturers. Make easy work for them. Ensure that they support them in different sectors. We are happy that they are trying to put up industrial parks. That's one way of supporting in infrastructure development. Then as manufacturers begin to set up these factories, which other more support should government give them? Ensure that they do training, ensure that they do training on standards, ensure that they do training on processes, and ensure that we do even more trainings on marketing. How does government support to open in more markets for our manufacturers? For example, we are glad that government has finalized the Congo being added on the East African community, That is very good for our manufacturers because that opens markets, huge markets for our manufacturers. Steel, we are all aware that there is a lot of steel that goes into Congo. We should do a lot of manufacturing in consumable goods in Uganda such that we are able to export them to markets like Congo, to markets like Burundi, markets like Rwanda. That is very good for our manufacturers.
Julian also calls upon the women to up their game in order to compete favorably on a global scale.
Be able, especially women who are adding value or in manufacturing, for them to be able to produce goods that are fit for the international market, for the regional market and the local market. We need to be keen on the processes, ensure that we meet the UNBS standards, ensure that as we process, we ensure we meet quality standards, such that our goods are able to meet the international market standards.
4 years ago, Uganda adopted a social and economic development plan aimed at creating jobs and raising incomes. The plan acknowledges that Uganda must boost manufacturing, improve its services sector, and crack export markets to realize stronger growth. To do this, it must raise productivity.
Intellectual property refers to creations of the mind, such as inventions, literary and artistic works, designs and symbols, names and images used in commerce. IP is protected in law by, for example, patents, copyrights, and trademarks, which enable people to earn recognition or financial benefit from what they invent and create. We do take a look at this.
Intellectual property defender deals with issues to do with trademark, copyright, and also we do our private investigations on frauds and forgeries. But where we are focused most, we are on the intellectual property rights defender. So we are defending trademark infringement, we are defending copyright piracy, against copyright piracy. Is the creation of the mind. If you have an idea, you need to think out of it and do it, make it happen. And in 2006, Copyright Act was put in place. And in 2010, Trademark Act was also passed. So these laws are still new to people's sight and mind, and of course, but enforcement has begun and sensitization has begun. And people slowly are catching up, especially in music, film, they are getting to know. Also in the trade, those who are manufacturers, they are getting to know that if I'm manufacturing my product, I have to register the name or the symbol as a trademark for me, for my particular good to be known where it's coming from. That means the source of the product has to be known, which particular company is doing this. So that company goes ahead to register their symbol or to become a trademark. About benefiting a business person as intellectual property, say your copyright or your trademark, how is it benefiting you? Once you register it, the government will come in to protect, especially through enforcement. The police, if you have somebody infringing on your trademark or your copyright, you run to the government to protect you. And when the government begins to protect you, it means you are going to gain your economic returns, the earning. So government goes ahead to protect those who have registered with them. And also, if you have not registered for the case of copyright, of course, copyright is automatic. You don't need it to say I'm registered first. So government will protect you because it's protecting you to earn and also pay taxes, income to the rights owner and the government.
Tapping into the investment world, investment is an asset acquired or invested in to build wealth and save money from the hard-earned income or appreciation. Investment is to obtain an additional source of income or gain profit from the investment over a specific period of time. Investing ensures present and future financial security. Now, Dr. Clark Chisembo, a business consultant, sheds more light on investment and the need for investment.
In an exclusive interview with Smart 24 TV, Dr. Clark Chisembo, a business consultant, gives a full understanding of investment.
I once said is what you forego and the risk you take to be able to gain. So what I mean is that what you forego, if we talk in terms of money, is if you have, say, 100,000 shillings, you invest it, or you buy some goods or services, and then you sell them. When you sell them, you get a profit of, say, 20,000. So that means that you have incurred a profit of 20,000, but also you've taken a risk of 100,000 to gain 20,000. So instead of money lying idle, you would rather utilize it through investment, and then you accumulate some more capital.
Chisembo says there are many reasons for investment. Among them is growing one's income.
Increase your income and revenue streams. If you're relying only on a salary, for example, inflation can eat away your money. When the economy becomes, things become expensive and your salary has not increased, which means that you're actually in that period earning less than what you were earning before.
However, Clark says there are also risks in investment that a person needs to look at before taking a decision to invest.
Depending on what business you've invested in, because you could lose all what you've invested in if you don't, say, conduct research before investing. I've had some young people whom I associate with, even some elderly people who get excited and invest in, say, have you heard of Ponzi schemes? Ponzi schemes is what we would call pyramid schemes. Like, I could be here and I start thinking of a business, and when I think of it, it's more of marketing a product. So I market a product. When I market this product, if I get 5 people and one of them goes up, they earn. But that kind of scheme has no foundations. Or we are workmates, or we are relatives. We come up with an idea of investing. But I, one person, can't invest alone because I don't have enough money or capital to do that investment. So I look out to my friends or my workmates or my family and say, please, could we join together, come up with an investment club whereby we dictate probably that every week there's money we collect, or every month from our salary, from different ways, and then this money we aggregate it into one pool, and then.
And that wraps up our 9 p.m. Prime Edition Bulletin tonight. Thank you for being with us. You can find us on our social media platforms, on our Facebook page, Smart24TV, on our Twitter at Smart24TV, and our YouTube channel, Smart24TV. I'm Kevin Andera. Have a good night.